The story begins with a man named Takumi Kayano in a dense forest, reflecting on how, until a few hours ago, he was just an ordinary person. Now, he finds himself surrounded by monsters in another world. The monsters, known as red wolves, are C-rank beasts. Takumi efficiently kills them all using his skill called air shot and stores their remains in his inventory. Takumi then recounts how he ended up in this situation. A few hours earlier, he had encountered someone who apologized to him. Confused, Takumi asked who the person was and where they were. The person introduced himself as Sil, a god, and explained that they were in a part of the divine land. Initially skeptical, Takumi wondered if it was some sort of scam, but Sil assured him it was not. Surprised that Sil could read his thoughts, Takumi asked for an explanation. Sil revealed that he had made a mistake and accidentally killed Takumi while trying to repair a tear in the space-time continuum. Sil had put too much power into the repair, inadvertently causing Takumi's death on the other side of the tear. Sil explained that Takumi's life in his original world ended when he was 28 years old. The body he now inhabits is one that Sil created, and this new world is called Atalia, which Sil governs. Takumi's new body is equipped with the basic knowledge of this world, including its language and various skills. Checking his stats, Takumi notices that he is at level 3, likely having leveled up from defeating the red wolf. Suddenly, he hears noises from the bushes. Initially wary of another monster, he is surprised to find two small children. They appear lost, and when he tries to ask about their parents, they shy away in fear. Unsure of what to do, Takumi discovers that the children are hungry. He offers them some fruit from his inventory, showing them how to eat it. Once they taste it, they eagerly consume the fruit. Noticing their tattered clothes, Takumi finds children's clothing in his inventory and dresses them in the new attire. He then tells the children he plans to leave the forest and head to the city, inviting them to join him. The children remain silent, so Takumi introduces himself and asks for their names, but they do not respond, suspecting they might be mute. He uses his appraisal skill to check their stats. He learns that both children are 5 years old and nameless. Takumi decides to name the boy Alan and the girl Elena, asking them to come with him. The children follow, showing impressive stamina, though Takumi anticipates needing frequent breaks. Suddenly, the twins run ahead, and Takumi is alarmed to see monsters in their path. Although tempted to use magic, he fears hitting the children and watches in amazement as they defeat the monsters using martial arts skills. When the twins return, he asks if they sense the monsters ahead. They nod, and Takumi instructs them to inform him first if they detect anything from now on. They agree, and the group continues toward the city. As they travel, Takumi reflects that the children's strength makes sense given their survival in the dangerous forest. When they encounter another monster, the children notify Takumi before swiftly defeating it. He praises their efforts and pats their heads. Throughout the journey, the twins handle all the monsters they encounter, allowing Takumi to relax. In the evening, Takumi finds a suitable camping spot. He instructs the children to gather dry branches, which they do, and they make a fire. They cook and eat some meat, and Takumi notices the children starting to smile, indicating they are warming up to him. That night, they sleep inside a magical barrier for protection. The next day, they reach the city. At the gates, they tell the guards they came from the Forest of Gaia. The guards are incredulous, as the Forest of Gaia is known to be extremely dangerous, recommended only for ranky adventurers. Takumi understands their skepticism, especially since he has 2 children with him. He explains that he left his village to search for herbs and did not venture far into the forest. He also mentions that the children are strong enough to protect themselves. The guards then ask if he obtained the herbs, to which Takumi replies affirmatively. Finally, the guards request to see their identity cards. Takumi acknowledges the kids' help and rewards them for their efforts. He praises them, calling them amazing. Suddenly, a rude bald adventurer barges in and yells at the kids, demanding to know what they're doing there. Takumi calmly explains that he brought them, asking if there's a problem. The bald adventurer, Baldy, insists that the place isn't for kids. Takumi points out that there's no age limit and the kids aren't causing any trouble. Baldy retorts that he simply doesn't like seeing them there and starts getting aggressive. In response, the kids quickly overpower him. Takumi intervenes, asking Luna if there will be any punishment for their actions. Luna assures him it was self-defense. At that moment, the guard from earlier arrives, surprised by the commotion. Takumi notices the kids are crying and asks what's wrong. They plead with him not to leave them. Realizing they think this because he yelled at them, Takumi reassures them that he will never leave them. After calming the kids, the guard asks what happened, and Takumi recounts the entire story. The god introduces himself as Grand Vault Loan, or Vault for short, and reveals that he is the second captain of the knights in the city of Shireen. Vault asks if the kids were crying out of fear, and Takumi explains that they thought he would abandon them. Vault wonders why they would think that, and Takumi clarifies that they aren't his children. He just met them in the forest of Gaia, which makes them insecure. Both Luna and Vault are shocked to hear that the kids were in the forest of Gaia. Takumi speculates that they might have been abandoned or got lost there. Luna recalls a recent attack on a slave trader group from the Algo Kingdom by monsters from the forest of Gaia. Vault suggests that the kids might have been left as decoys. Takumi isn't sure, but asks if there would be any issue with him taking care of them. Vault assures him it's fine, noting how attached the kids have become to him. Luna, excitedly, asks Takumi if he brought any materials from the forest of Gaia. Takumi confirms he has some red wolf items, which makes Luna ecstatic. He sells the materials to her, receiving a substantial amount of money in return. Vault then explains he is at the guild to discuss an expedition to the Gaia forest, which they periodically undertake to prevent monster overflow. Vault mentions their constant need for more adventurers, particularly ranked ones, and suggests Takumi should join them. Takumi protests, saying he is only F-ranked, but Vault dismisses this, pointing out that Takumi defeated a red wolf alone. Takumi regrets mentioning the red wolf, and Vault goes to speak with the guild master. Vault requests adventurers for the expedition as usual, and also specifically asks for Takumi Keanu. The guild master is unfamiliar with the name, and Vault explains that Takumi is a newbie. The guild master is surprised that Vault wants to include a rookie, but acknowledges that Takumi, despite being new, isn't a beginner. Days pass, and Takumi becomes accustomed to life in Adeldia. He notes that the twins are also getting more comfortable interacting with strangers. They adopt a routine of taking a day off after 2 days of quests, continuing their adventures. During a meal, Takumi thinks about the good bread they have, missing the various flavors from his previous world. He decides to make them himself and shares his idea with the twins, who are excited. They visit Golden Bakery, where the shopkeeper, Michelle, asks what he wants. Takumi explains he has a favor to ask and is introduced to Rode, Michelle's father and the store owner. Takumi proposes making a different type of bread, showing jars of jam and custard cream from his inventory. Rode, intrigued, agrees to try. Takumi demonstrates how to knead dough and add fillings. Rode and Michelle, along with Alan and Elena, join in. Takumi also introduces red bean paste as a filling option. They bake the bread, and everyone enjoys it. Rode asks if they can sell the bread in their store, offering Takumi credits and profits. Takumi declines, saying he would be happy just to eat the bread anytime. Rode is pleased, and they plan to make more bread the next day. Takumi asks the twins if they like the bread, and they enthusiastically say they want more. The following day, Takumi visits the guild again. Luna informs him that he has advanced to rank E. Takumi checks his level, now at 13, and anticipates more diverse job opportunities. Luna asks if he has been to the labyrinth yet. Takumi recalls that there are 108 labyrinths in this world, according to the knowledge Syl gave him. Luna mentions an underground labyrinth near Shirin with 15 floors, a popular spot for acclimated adventurers. Takumi asks the twins if they want to explore the labyrinth, and they are excited. Luna is surprised they plan to go immediately, noting it takes half a day to reach and several days to explore fully. Takumi clarifies that they will only check out the first and second floors for now. The scene shifts to the labyrinth, where they have already reached the third floor. Takumi credits Alan and Elena for guiding him accurately, preventing them from getting lost. He reviews his information, learning that this is an Earth-type labyrinth. They encounter a ground mole, which Takumi deems weak enough for the kids to handle. To his surprise, the kids have already defeated it. The monster disappears, and Takumi explains that defeated monsters in the labyrinth leave dropped items. The kids search for the items, and Takumi finds a mole's whisker, which disappoints him. They continue exploring the labyrinth and eventually stop for a meal. Takumi takes out a magic stove and mentions that with it, they can enjoy warm meals anywhere. He prepares some vegetable soup, and they all savor the food. After eating, they set up a barrier and fall asleep. The next day, the trio continues exploring the labyrinth, defeating all the monsters they encounter along the way. They stop for meals and rest, repeating this cycle for several days until they reach the 10th floor. There, they discover a hidden treasure chest. Takumi warns the twins that treasure chests can contain either amazing or dangerous items. After checking for traps and finding none, he allows the twins to open it. Inside, they find 2 potions, one for recovering mana and the other for stamina. Takumi notes that these are just low-level items with limited contents. The twins then spot a monster outside the hidden room and promptly defeat it, obtaining its hide as a drop. The twins wonder if the hide is a rare item, but Takumi explains that it's only of moderate value. He reflects on the twins' incredible perception and martial arts skills, marveling at their ability to navigate the labyrinth and find monsters quickly. He feels fortunate that they are not under the control of the authorities, understanding that this is what Syl must have been concerned about. He briefly feels like he is taking advantage of the kids. They encounter a venomous clay snake next, and Takumi tells the twins that he will handle it. Using his rock throw skill combined with wind cutter, he defeats the snake. When giant bees appear, the twins express their desire to fight them, and Takumi lets them. The bees are nimble, dodging the twins' attacks, which leads Takumi to think they might be struggling. However, he soon realizes the twins are just playing with the bees. As they play, Takumi sorts through their collected items and finds some slime jelly. He wonders if he can use it for something. Meanwhile, the twins defeat the bees one by one, collecting honey as a drop item, which they hand to Takumi. He informs them that honey is valuable in Italdia and suggests they should find and defeat as many giant bees as possible. The twins agree, and more giant bees appear. They easily defeat them. Afterwards, Takumi cooks something with Alan and Elena's help. He adds honey on top, creating French toast. They all find it delicious. More giant bees show up, and Takumi uses air shot to defeat them, though they keep coming. He realizes the bees are attracted to the smell of honey, meaning they'll have plenty of honey as they continue. After gathering a substantial amount of honey, they resume exploring and eventually reach the lowest floor. At the final boss room, they find a large door and enter. The door closes behind them, and a giant earthworm appears. Takumi realizes they must defeat it to escape. He tells the twins to leave it to him and uses wind blades, but the earthworm dodges. It attacks with sand balls, which Takumi destroys with air shot before firing a wind arrow to defeat it. Surprised by how easily he won, Takumi speculates that this must be a lower-ranked labyrinth. He considers that his abilities might be overpowered. The defeated earthworm drops a fawn, a fairy stone, and some worm meat. Takumi is disgusted to learn that worm meat is a premium ingredient. He checks on the twins, who are fine, and commend him by patting his head. A secret door opens in the boss room, revealing a teleportation device that can take them directly to the first floor. They also find a treasure chest containing fire bombs, which Takumi likens to hand grenades. He stops the twins from playing with them. They use the teleportation device to exit the labyrinth, and Takumi suggests heading back to the city. On the way, the twins spot a dog, which Takumi quickly realizes is a wolf. He remains cautious, but notices the wolf acting like a pet. Since Alan and Elena don't find it suspicious, he decides it must not be dangerous. Using appraisal, he discovers it's a Fenrir, an S-ranked monster meant to be his summoned beast. Takumi doesn't recall making a contract with any monster. Suspecting it's Sill's doing, he asks the beast if it's a summon, confirming that it is and noticing it follows his every command. The twins hug the beast, finding it cute and fluffy. They ask Takumi to name it, and he chooses Jewel. As they approach the city, Takumi explains that they can't bring Jewel into the city, as people would panic at the sight of a monster. He tells Jewel to hide in his shadow for now. He explains that summoning is considered dark magic, and summoned beasts are usually hidden in shadows, so they can be called upon when needed. The scene shifts to Takumi at the church, where he talks to Sill. Sill mentions feeling lonely because Takumi hadn't visited for a while. Takumi explains that he's there to ask about the summon. Sill is confused at first, then realizes it must have been the god of water who sent the Fenrir. Sill laments that it isn't fair, as he was supposed to send Takumi a familiar first. He promises to send one soon, and Takumi will find it in the meadow outside the city the next day. Takumi wonders why the god of water sent him a familiar, and Sill explains that they probably wanted to thank him, likely related to Elena and Alan, who have water magic. Sill hands Takumi additional items from the god of water, surprising him with their number. Sill mentions that more items will be sent soon. Takumi protests, but Sill warns that refusing might result in a curse, leaving Takumi no choice but to accept. The scene cuts to Takumi sleeping at the inn. The next day, they head to the meadow and find a tiger and some kind of bird there. One of them was a flying tiger, an S-rank monster that controls the wind and flies freely through the skies. The other was a thunder hawk, a golden hawk that uses thunder magic and possesses enviable speed. Takumi decided to name the tiger Feet and the hawk Bolt. Sill had already sent collars for the animals, so they were properly equipped and domesticated to join the White Wings. To avoid any issues among people, these collars could shrink along with the pets, making them look like kittens and puppies. The children were intrigued by the collars and asked to wear them too. However, Takumi explained it wasn't a good idea for them to use such accessories, as people would look strangely at an adult with kids wearing pet collars on the street. Alan and Elena were sad they couldn't share the pet's accessories. So, Takumi gave them necklaces with angel pendants, which are resistant to magical attacks. Besides that, they received pursuit rings, which reveal the user's position on a map. Finally, he gifted each of them with a magical pouch, so they could collect items during their adventures. With everything done, Takumi announced it was time to return to the city. He called back Bolt and kept Feet and Jewel in their smaller forms. Once they arrived, Elena was enchanted by a shop window full of presents. Takumi took the kids inside the store and asked the saleswoman if the available ribbons could be used as hair decorations. For 50 gold coins each, he bought the ribbons to style Elena's hair. When she saw her transformation in the mirror, it was love at first sight. Seeing how happy she was, Takumi asked her to choose another ribbon. Elena picked a black one because it was the color of her father's hair. The saleswoman asked if the girl chose that color because she loved her dad, and Elena confirmed with a yes, making Takumi very pleased. Then he asked Alan if he wanted anything, but Alan felt that kind of ribbon didn't match his style, so he shook his head. Seizing the festive mood, the The saleswoman offered to let the kids try on some new clothes. Soon, they were showing off their charm in the shop's most modern outfits. Takumi asked if the woman made all those clothes herself, and she confirmed that she also did sewing work. Among all the clothes, the twins liked the ones with animal ears the most, so Takumi bought them to please his children. At night, while the kids were sound asleep, their guardian pondered about something special to buy for Alan, just like he did for Alina. He started to consider what would be nice to give a boy. In his childhood, Takumi only received items that didn't exist in this world, like video games, toy cars, and trading cards, so he felt lost trying to find something suitable. The next day, he was woken by his children's usual excitement, now with the added fun of having animals join the party. Today, the anticipation was even higher because it would be the first day they would go on an expedition to Gaia Forest with Vol. To complete this mission, the White Wings had to reduce the number of monsters posing a threat to the forest by investigating nests and eliminating them. When they reached the captain, the children became a bit shy again, especially when a stranger approached their father to introduce himself as the vice captain. His name was Isaac Rissner, and while he seemed welcoming of the adults' participation, he questioned whether the children would really be safe in a hostile, a rank environment. Vol tried to break the ice, commenting that the kids were stronger than they looked. But Alan and Elena reacted by hiding, even more behind their guardian's legs. Takumi apologized for the children's shyness and tried to encourage them to come out of their shells, but it seemed it would take some time for them to lower their guard. In any case, Vol announced they would use carriages to get to Gaia Forest and asked everyone to board. Takumi noticed someone staring at them strangely, sensing his children's unease. He realized they had also picked up on some hostility, presuming it was because some adventurers didn't accept the presence of children on such expeditions. On the way to the mission, Isaac explained it would take about an hour to reach the forest. Takumi told the kids it might be a boring ride, but they were fine with it. Two adventurers started to encourage the children, saying they looked forward to working as a team with the little ones. This left the kids looking astonished, as if feeling the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. As the carriage moved, Takumi felt they were getting more comfortable, much to his relief. Soon, they arrived at the edge of Gaia Forest, and Vol announced his 5-day hunting plan, with each of the 3 battalions taking different routes to reach the camp. First, the captain introduced Takumi to the group of adventurers joining the cavalry. Their leader was Rudolph from Dragon Breath, who was eager to work with all the expedition members. The girl was named Iris, the boy in the green shirt was Gilm, and the one in blue was Zack. Rudolph was a rank adventurer, so Takumi was impressed and eager to work with such a high-level individual. With that, Vol called everyone to set off. Along the way, the twins demonstrated their perceptive abilities by identifying the presence of nearby enemies. Takumi warned that a monster was coming from the left, even though no one else could see it. Ironically, Gilm's detection magic, which relied on a magical signal, failed to pick up anything, while the twins' pure perception was far more effective at sensing nearby hostilities. After a while, Gilm finally detected the presence, and the group went into combat mode. Soon, a red wolf emerged from the forest. Unlike the others, Alan and Elena were delighted by the animal's presence and ran to play with it, reminding Takumi that he had forgotten to tell them to stay quietly in a corner. Alan kicked the beast, followed by Elena, and together they defeated the enemy in mere seconds, leaving everyone in awe. As usual, Takumi patted the children's heads to praise their victory, but asked them to rest and let the others have a turn at hunting as well. Meanwhile, Vol wanted to know what he had just witnessed, since red wolves are rank sea creatures. Takumi mentioned the day when the twins took down an adult man at the Adventurers Guild. Although it was indeed an impressive scene, the captain thought it had only happened because the man had let his guard down. He didn't believe these kids were true killing machines capable of taking down wild beasts with just a kick. Takumi recalled finding the twins in Gaia's forest, which left the adventurers in shock at the fact that two kids had survived in such a dangerous place. This explained a lot about the impressive strength the two little ones displayed. Amidst all this, Syl was observing the journey and regretted having put Takumi in this situation. All he could hope for was that the one sent to this world would succeed in his mission. He prayed to the gods for the trio's safety. Alan and Elena threatened this safety by suddenly running into the forest, prompting their father to chase after them to see what had happened. It turned out they had found spirit grass, a medicinal herb with magical properties that also serves as an ingredient for potions. Despite receiving more head pats for finding the item, Takumi reminded them again that they couldn't run around the forest like crazy. But with their sad, adorable faces, he gave in and let them take a stroll deeper into the woods. Soon, they found slimy rock moss, an effective remedy for itching, but one that could cause rashes if it came into direct contact with the skin. Isaac remembered when his captain used this moss to treat his itching fits. Vol got excited to collect as much of this ingredient as possible, but before he could touch it, Isaac warned him about the rashes and scolded his superior, pointing out that even the children were smarter for calling an adult before touching the plant. Takumi found this dynamic between the two odd, but one of the adventurers explained it had always been like that. To make matters worse, the scolding seemed to last over an hour, so Takumi called the kids and asked them to do something discreetly. The twins pulled Isaac's cloak and handed him a bag of the moss, making the vice captain overjoyed with the gift from the little ones, which made him forget to reprimand Vol. Once again, Alan and Elena restored peace with their varied skills. However, peace was short-lived as a high orc approached, accompanied by 6 smaller orcs. Rudolph committed to dealing with the chief enemy, while Takumi also joined the fight. Vol doubted Takumi could handle an orc, but Takumi proved otherwise by taking down one of the monsters with his classic wind cutter. Meanwhile, the captains fought off the rest of the orcs, and Rudolph battled their leader. After the victory, Vol demanded an explanation of how the supposedly inexperienced adventurer had annihilated an orc in a single move. The twins didn't like the captain's approach and glared at him like angry dogs. Nonetheless, Vol discovered that Takumi's rank F was a sham and suggested Rudolph adjust the rank once they returned to the Adventurers Guild. Takumi didn't understand how Rudolph could raise his rank just by asking. Rudolph explained that a recommendation from a higher-level adventurer was enough for the guild master to raise someone's rank depending on the case. Returning to the recent battle, the rank adventurer noted that many orcs were at the forest's edge and that the atmosphere around was oddly calm. Isaac shared the same concern, considering it a bad omen for such a group of monsters to be there. With a serious face, Vol announced a full investigation, which was interrupted by the twins asking their uncle for a cool snack. During the meal, the captain questioned how Takumi had obtained ghost bread, named for its extreme rarity in bakeries. Takumi explained that the baker had made it personally for him, leaving Vol envious enough to ask the children for a bite. When they refused, their guardian had no choice but to provide another loaf for the big kid, deciding to share it with the entire expedition team. Later, they saw a red flare in the sky and hurried to check the emergency. To get there faster, Takumi used wind magic to carry Alan and Elena with him. Lurking, they spotted 4 blood wolves chasing another group of humans. These wolves were a more advanced race than the red wolf. With injured people in the field, Takumi decided to debut his water katana and fought the wolves alongside the twins. The victory was so swift that the rest of the team arrived with everything already resolved. Surprised to see that Takumi was much stronger than he had imagined, Vol teased that the boy was too skinny to seem so powerful, causing the children to growl at him again. Afterward, Takumi and the children sensed another dangerous presence, this time even more powerful. At night, the soldiers set up camp and prepared dinner, though Takumi wasn't impressed by their lackluster cooking skills. He frequently scolded the cooks, reminding them to add less meat to the pot and properly make a sauce. Vault, one of the soldiers, pointed out that they were soldiers, not participants in MasterChef. Determined to ensure the children were well fed, Takumi took on the role of head chef. Under his guidance, the cooks managed to create a spectacular meal. At dinner, everyone acknowledged the food was magnificent, and Takumi couldn't resist a smug little chef's kiss. The next morning, the entire camp looked to him with expectation, forcing Takumi to prepare breakfast as well. Amidst his duties, he felt an eerie sensation of being watched, mirroring the fear visible in his children's eyes. Takumi hugged the twins, staying vigilant, sharing his unease with the soldiers during their march. Vault agreed something was amiss in the forest, and Rudolph noted the unusual absence of monsters. Farius, the third captain of the garrison, introduced himself to Takumi, reminding him that his unit had previously been surrounded by bloodthirsty wolves. Since then, Farius had vowed to remain on high alert, although the lack of monsters in the forest depths was highly unusual. Takumi was more concerned with the unsettling feeling of being watched, especially since it was affecting the twins. The sensation distracted him so much that only the children noticed a giant snake nearby, a menacing viper. The snake attacked with its full might, stirring up dust and crushing soldiers under its massive weight. Takumi clung to Elena and Alan, launching a wind cutter at the creature, but it dodged. Farius used Earth Needle to momentarily contain the threat, raising giant stakes of earth and rock around the serpent. Rudolph speculated that the viper was responsible for driving away the forest's monsters and ordered the wounded to stay clear of the front line. Vault instructed Isaac to remove the injured, while Takumi asked the children to stay out of the fight. Rudolph and his partners attacked, but their weapons had no effect on the viper's resilient hide. Seeing his men fall one by one, and the snake advancing towards the wounded, Takumi timed his actions perfectly to cut down a tree, blocking the serpent's path. Vault attacked with a flaming sword, but it was ineffective. Iris and Gilm cast wind and fire spells, but they couldn't damage the monster. Takumi noticed the children clinging to the monster and threw a dagger directly into the snake, making it suffer for the first time in the battle. However, the unsettling sensation returned, distracting Alan and Elena, who were struck by the serpent's powerful tail. Iris rescued the children, and they quickly recovered. Rudolph reassured Takumi, allowing him to focus on casting an advanced wind spell. Although he had never successfully used this spell before, Takumi felt capable now. He asked Rudolph's group to cover him as he concentrated his mana. Feeling ready, Takumi ordered everyone to move away from the snake and launched the wind edge at it. Amidst the chaos of light, dust, and wind, the snake's body was shattered, but the falling trees now posed a new threat to the soldiers. After the devastation, Rudolph thanked Takumi for his life-saving magic and pointed out the value of the viper's blood. They needed to collect as much as possible before it drained away. The children hugged their uncle, praising him and bringing a smile to his face. Despite his worry, the twins assured him they were fine, thanks to Iris's healing. Takumi discovered that Alan and Elena were not only strong, but also remarkably resilient to brutal attacks. If they were ordinary children, their injuries would have been much worse. Determined to protect them, Takumi vowed to ensure such a situation would never happen again. Meanwhile, the unsettling sensation of being watched gnawed at Takumi once again. This time, instead of remaining passive, he confronted one of the soldiers, forcefully throwing him to the ground and pressing his sword against the man's neck. The captain, baffled by the sudden attack on Sages, demanded an explanation from Takumi, while the soldier protested his innocence. Takumi found the soldier's denial ironic, considering the murderous intent in his eyes. Rudolph confirmed he had witnessed the hostile glances since they gathered, despising the man for such behavior towards their savior. With the children hurt, Takumi's fury was understandable, explaining his aggressive demeanor. Despite Sagas's insistence of innocence, Takumi wasn't convinced and pressed him further. Cornered, The knight finally blurted out that it was all due to Takumi drawing Captain Vault's attention. Takumi glanced at the captain, who turned away to avoid responsibility, leaving the vice captain to explain that Sagus Clance had publicly declared his love for Vault. Takumi assumed it was a respectful admiration, but Isaac clarified it was a romantic affection. Vault broke his silence, admitting he was interested in men. Sagus argued that since Vault wasn't currently in love with anyone, he should give him a chance. After this revelation, Isaac apologized for dragging Takumi into the mess, and Farius demanded punishment for Sagus. However, Takumi took responsibility, admitting he had ignored the situation for too long, leading to this problem. He assured everyone that if it happened again, he wouldn't be so lenient. After the confrontation, Rudolph seized the moment to apologize to Takumi. Starving from the ordeal, Takumi wasn't in the mood to cook, especially suspecting other soldiers might share Sagus's sentiments. However, the children's excitement about eating with the soldiers convinced him to make an extra effort. He requested help from the garrison and personally asked Rudolph to help dismember an orc. During preparation, the kids accidentally broke the eggs, but Takumi reassured them they'd improve with time, using Iris as an example who made the same mistake despite being an adult. With the food ready, Alan and Elena finally ate well and rested from the intense battle against the orcs. Taking advantage of the free time, Takumi checked his status and saw he had reached level 25, earning new spells and a water magic spell he didn't yet understand, but assumed was added by Syl. At that moment, Vault apologized for the day's events and ruffled the children's hair to reward them for their hard work. Showing his gratitude, the captain deeply thanked the trio of newcomers and announced the end of the expedition, surprising everyone. He explained that many soldiers were injured, making it too risky to continue. This meant Takumi and the children had completed their mission and could collect their reward at the Adventurers Guild. The next day, upon returning to the guild, the receptionist was thrilled to see them and immediately took them to meet the guild master of Shireen Adventurers, Johan. Johan, getting straight to the point, said he was informed by the expedition captains that Takumi shouldn't stay in his current rank. While skeptical of Takumi's strength despite his capabilities, Johan was willing to promote him to rank A based on the knight's recommendation. With Luna's excitement, the guild master highlighted Takumi's defeat of a bloody wolf and an evil viper alongside the children, who also proved their strength. Takumi requested the children be promoted to rank D, but Johan raised them to C, allowing Takumi to take on rank B missions. During the promotion, Luna discovered from the guild card that Takumi conquered the Earth Labyrinth, as achievements were recorded in each adventurer's documentation. With no other option, Takumi admitted passing through there. The clerk informed him he set another record, but Takumi asked for it to remain a secret, not wanting to attract trouble. Agreeing, Luna handed over the promotion credentials and the reward, then asked to see any materials he might have obtained. As she fetched the storage key, Takumi told the kids they needed to find a place for the giant snake. Leaving the creature's body in the guild, he negotiated with Luna on the value of the evil viper, deciding to keep 1/3 of the skin and meat, giving the rest to the guild. Luna was thrilled, and Takumi only needed food and equipment for himself and the children. He also had various items from the Gaia forest, which amazed Luna with their variety. Leaving the guild, Takumi was exhausted, while the kids were full of energy. Nonetheless, he managed to convince them to stay at an inn, and quickly fell into a deep sleep. As dawn breaks, Takumi finds himself lying peacefully on the green grass of a field, watching the children play with the animals. Curious about the interaction between the twins and the pets, he walks over to see what's happening. The boys are trying to teach the animals to speak, and though Takumi isn't sure if it's possible, he appreciates their effort. On the topic of teaching, Takumi uses the reward money White Wings earns from missions to give the boys a lesson in counting coins. He explains the value differences between copper, silver, and gold coins, noting that size also affects their worth. Capitalizing on the kids' eagerness, he asks them to collect coins that total 54 gold. Alan and Elena put their heads together and calculate the necessary amount. Takumi then increases the difficulty of the challenges, demonstrating his commitment to educating the children about practical life skills beyond adventuring. After the math exercises, it's time to go shopping. The twins, enchanted by the bustling market, view it as an amusement park. They marvel at merchants offering plants to beautify the house and fresh vegetables to satisfy their hunger. At the fruit stand, the seller greets the children warmly. Takumi asks Alan to choose the fruit he wants, reminding him to say, "Please." Alan requests 5 cure fruits, totaling 35 gold coins. He carefully counts out the money from his pouch and receives praise from Takumi for a job well done. Next, it's Elena's turn. She asks for 5 apples costing 30 gold coins. Like her brother, Elena correctly counts the amount and earns affection from her father. The seller compliments the children's calculation skills, boosting Takumi's confidence in his role as their guardian. After returning the money, they head to a bookstore. While Alan and Elena browse, Takumi searches for a book to help him learn water magic. As he examines a book, he notices the children standing idle. He explains that he is reading and interpreting the letters. The siblings, as always, show interest in learning. An elderly lady, charmed by their energy, approaches and suggests handwriting exercise books and illustrated books for children. The twins thank the lady for her help, and she praises Takumi for raising them well, making him feel bashful once again. As they leave the bookstore, Takumi confesses that receiving so many compliments feels good, because it indicates he is on the right track with raising Elena and Alan. A day later, the White Wings group returns to the guild to resume work. Their mission is to find a black cat with white paws. Following the clue from the flyer, Takumi takes the twins to the place where Mina was lost. With the help of Jewelfeet and Bolt, everyone mobilizes to find the cat. They search every alley corner and rooftop, with Bolt providing excellent aerial support. Takumi finds a tabby cat, but dismisses it since it's not the one they're looking for. Alan spots a black cat's tail, but it turns out to be another cat with white fur. Elena bumps into Feet, who was hiding in a neighborhood bush. After a long search, the twins start to lose enthusiasm, but Takumi encourages them for one last push. The team encounters all sorts of cats except the black one. After another unsuccessful round, the kids seem even more disheartened. To reignite their determination, Takumi asks if they want to give up. The little ones decide to persevere. When asked where they plan to look next, the children and pets point in the same direction. After some more searching, they see a shadow passing in front of the group, soon revealing itself to be a black cat behind some barrels. Takumi compares it to the flyer drawing, and all the characteristics match perfectly. He warns the kids that approaching recklessly will scare the animal, so they need to sneak up quietly. The twins tiptoe toward Mina, who is trembling with fear and threatening to react violently. Alan shakes his feather cord to attract the cat's attention, making Mina settle down in front of the dangling accessory. After retrieving the lost pet, Takumi takes some milk from his inventory to feed it. They then return to the guild and deliver the cat to its grateful owner, who is waiting for Mina. Seeing the owner's joyous reaction as she cradles her beloved Mina, Alan and Elena are inspired. They yearn to bring that same satisfaction to others by finding another lost pet. When they ask Takumi, he inquires with Luna about similar jobs. Unfortunately, there are no more pet recovery missions available. However, the receptionist suggests a goblin hunting job in a neighboring village, where the creatures have been terrorizing both people and animals. Although the mission isn't ideal for lower ranks, and the pay isn't great, experienced adventurers have been avoiding it. Takumi and the group decide to accept it. They set off on their animals, arriving in the village where Jewel and Feet return to their smaller forms to avoid trouble. while Bolt calmly soars above. At the village gate, the guards greet them with suspicion and rudeness. Takumi explains their presence, showing the guard their mission from the Shireen Guild. The guard, still wary, takes them to the village chief. Inside the village walls, Takumi remarks on the guard's vigilance, who explains that goblin attacks have become more frequent, occurring several times a day. Upon meeting the chief, Takumi gets straight to the point, asking for information about the goblin invaders. The chief, skeptical of the young man and the two children, asks when the rest of his team will arrive. To ease the chief's concerns, Takumi shows his Ranka badge. Just then, a guard rushes in, reporting an ongoing goblin attack. Takumi urges everyone to flee to safety, assuring them he will handle the situation. The chief questions whether Takumi will really take the children into battle. Takumi explains that it's easier to protect them by his side than to leave them somewhere out of his control. As chaos erupts and villagers flee, a woman trips, becoming vulnerable to a goblin attack. Takumi repels the creature with an air shot and rescues her. He then advises the kids to be careful before releasing them into action. He also lets the animals join the fight, asking the two quadrupeds to stay in their reduced forms. The quintet charges at the invading goblins, swiftly defeating most of them. They then spot a more menacing goblin soldier. Takumi prepares to take on this opponent himself, but Alan and Elena jump in, taking it down effortlessly with a well-coordinated kick. After the battle, Takumi gathers the team to praise everyone. He then hears a voice through telepathy, coming from Jewel, who gained this ability after defeating the goblins. Initially shocked, Takumi asks not to be called Master, preferring to be addressed by his name. Jewel isn't fond of this idea, so Alan and Elena suggest the wolf call him Uncle, which pleases Jewel. Feet then calls him Sir Uncle, while Bolt settles on Boss. Takumi is delighted to hear the animals talking and confirms Feet's gender as female, as he suspected. The animals express their desire to strengthen their bonds with the children, who jump with joy. Takumi pats the twins on the head, and the animals also request head pats, which they receive. However, the moment of camaraderie is interrupted by smoke rising from the village. Bolt flies to check the source, and Takumi prepares to put his water magic into practice. After reading the basics in a book, he attempts to create a water ball, but fails embarrassingly several times. Finally, he asks Jewel to extinguish the fire, which the wolf does effortlessly, while Takumi sulks in mild frustration. Following their uncle's example, Alan and Elena pat him on the head, reminding him he's not alone. With the fire out and the village safe, the adventurers bid farewell, collect their reward at the guild, and head home for a well-deserved rest. Despite the long day chasing a cat and battling goblins, the twins still have energy to ask Takumi to read them a book about ocean fish. Inspired, Takumi decides to show the kids the world, starting with Bailey, the southern beach town. He informs Shireen's captains of their departure, to which Isaac comments that Vault is relieved they aren't leaving the kingdom entirely. The captain appreciates having them around in case Shireen faces another invasion. They say goodbye to Luna, who is only interested in the rare materials Takumi might bring back. They also ask the Baker family for a large batch of cream-filled bread, anpan, and kukuru nut bread made in a special mold. At the clothing store, they receive a farewell outfit from the owner. Finally, Takumi visits the shrine to inform Syl of their trip. The god is saddened by the lack of recent visits, so Takumi promises to find a statue of the wind deity to communicate from the southern ocean. As they leave the shrine, a man claims the children as his property. They recall when the merchant used them as bait during a monster attack, leaving them for dead. Enraged, Takumi steps in to protect Alan and Elena from their past tormentor. Takumi inspects the man and discovers he's a slave trader. Calmly, he asserts that the two little ones are his siblings, not the individuals the man is searching for. This only enraged the man further, as the twins are unmistakably who he seeks. The slave trader, known as Rance, begins to suspect that Takumi is the one who used Alan and Alina as bait. Though slavery exists, with magical contracts marking slaves, the twins bear no such mark. Takumi's hatred for the man is palpable, but he knows this isn't the time to let anger take precedence. His priority is protecting the children. Just then, the city patrol arrives to investigate. The trader accuses Takumi of stealing his merchandise. The guards inquire about the stolen goods, and when the man explains, they recoil at his reference to the children. Takumi challenges him, demanding proof that the twins belong to him since neither has a slave mark. Running out of arguments, the man is cornered, and Takumi seizes the moment to accuse him of attempting to kidnap the children under a false identity. The guards hesitate, uncertain how to proceed, until Walt and Isaac coincidentally arrive and resolve the situation. The man is promptly taken into custody. The captains explain they only came to bid farewell to Takumi and the children, reassuring him that they testified Alan and Alina are indeed adventurous twins, not slaves. Takumi assures the twins he will always be there for them, no matter what. Overcome with emotion, Alan and Alina hug their uncle, tears streaming down their faces. During the farewell, Isaac gives Takumi an invitation from Lord Bailey, offering assistance in the southern coastal city. The officials, wielding influence in the region, vow to protect the three travelers. Takumi then urges the little ones to say goodbye to the knights, which they do reluctantly. Isaac comments that there's no need to force them, given their recent ordeal and lingering withdrawal. On their journey to Bailey City, Takumi ponders ways to lift the children's spirits, noticing their somber mood. He soon announces that the White Wings group will pass through the forest of Gaia. Upon arrival, he ensures the area is clear and releases all the animals to cheer up the children, who are thrilled. Jewel and Feed eagerly offer to help, while Bolt is assigned to scout for any nearby presence, as Takumi prefers not to be seen traveling with high-ranking monsters to avoid suspicion. With everyone mounted, they continue their journey. Early in the trek, Bolt tries to warn the group, but a blood bear suddenly appears. The bird dives to attack the beast's eye while Jewel and Feed engage with their claws. Takumi's animals swiftly handle the situation, but they seek a pat for their efforts. The wolf moves to lick Elena, but Takumi stops him just in time, aware of the risk of disease transmission from their dirty mouth. He uses a cleaning spell to bathe the tamed beasts, who then lick the children affectionately. After facing more creatures along the way, the White Wings successfully traverse the forest of Gaia before nightfall and set up camp. Takumi asks the children what they want for dinner, and they excitedly request cream bread. He gently explains that it's not suitable for dinner, but promises to make it for breakfast. Since the twins have been obedient, Takumi suggests they try a dish they're unfamiliar with, rice topped with an egg. The twins are delighted by the idea. Overhearing, the animals don't want to be left out and ask to try the oyakodon as well. That evening, the meal is served to everyone, including Alan and Elena, who are surprised to find it different from their expectations. They thought it would literally be an egg with a shell on rice. Nevertheless, they eagerly eat, just like the animals who devour their portions with gusto. Jewel and Feed even revert to their smaller forms to savor every bite. As night falls, everyone rests safely in the magical tent, while Takumi stays awake, gazing at the starry sky. 3 moons adorn the sky of Adeldia, 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 blue, with the red and yellow moons visible during this time of year. Takumi is captivated by the sight, reflecting on how much he has accomplished in just 2 months in Adeldia, more than he ever did on his home planet. It all feels like it passed in the blink of an eye. At dawn, they set off after a simple breakfast. Upon reaching Bailey, the children's faces light up with joy at the sight of the ocean for the first time. Takumi explains that the water is salty, prompting Elena to ask if it tastes good. He warns them not to drink the water, emphasizing the need for caution. Despite this, with their eyes still fixed on the ocean, Alan and Elena turn to their tutor and ask once more if they can drink the water. Takumi surmises that the children's curiosity about the sea is strong, so he allows them to dip their fingers in and taste the water to learn for themselves. The twins immediately understand why their uncle warned against drinking it after experiencing the terrible taste. Wiping the grimaces from their faces, they spot the approaching animals and quickly lose their sour expressions, running with the creatures to explore the beach in the best possible way. From a distance, Takumi hears a female voice call his name, but can't determine where it's coming from. Scanning the area, he sees no one on the sand until he looks toward the sea and notices a girl. Thinking she's drowning, Takumi prepares to jump into the water, disregarding the fact that he doesn't have a float or anything of the sort in his inventory. He shouts for the girl to wait, but she calls him by name, leaving him bewildered. She introduces herself as Milna the mermaid. Skeptical, Takumi examines her scent and status, confirming she's telling the truth. Milna explains that a servant of the water god informed her about him, and Takumi wonders if this servant is the same one who sent Jewel and all those gifts through Syl. The children soon arrive and ask who the lady is. Takumi explains that she's a mermaid, and Milna introduces herself, mentioning she has heard about the twins too, which startles them. Takumi then asks Milna to elaborate, and she reveals that she heard a human would help her race with a problem they're facing. She invites the group to follow her to the mermaid village to discuss the details. Takumi asks everyone to stay calm, noting that the village is likely underwater. He points out that none of them can breathe underwater. Though Takumi personally doesn't know how to swim, he keeps this to himself to avoid embarrassment. Reflecting on Syl's enhancements to his status, Takumi wonders if he can swim now. He has no doubt the twins would learn quickly if they tried. Milna addresses the issue by giving them 3 magical bracelets made of mermaid scales. These accessories allow the wearer to breathe underwater and create a thin protective layer to keep them dry. Even so, Takumi expresses his uncertainty about solving the problem Milna mentioned, but agrees to visit her village. Milna insists he can help, so Takumi places the animals in his shadow and hands the bracelets to the children. Without delay, they dive into the sea, and while the twins enjoy their first time in the water, Takumi marvels that he's not getting wet. They all dive in, but Takumi feels uneasy. Milna asks if everything is all right, and Takumi realizes he was holding his breath out of habit. He also notices he can speak underwater, which astonishes him. Meanwhile, the children are having a blast at the ocean's bottom, swimming like fish despite it being their first time. Inspired, Takumi decides to give swimming another try after a lifetime of failures. Flailing his arms and legs wildly, he accidentally bumps his head into Milna's belly. Upon closer inspection, he sees the fishtail on her body and realizes she truly is a mermaid. Feeling awkward about his stare, he explains that he was just surprised by the discovery. Unfazed, Milna continues leading them, prompting Takumi to ask about the monsters that inhabit the ocean floor. She mentions sand crabs and hammerhead fish, but assures him none are very strong. Just then, a shark with a hammer-like head speeds towards them, but Takumi remains unfazed as long as the hammer is avoided. Sneaking behind Takumi, the twins execute an underwater flying kick on the shark, sending it spinning downwards. This display reveals that even underwater, the children don't lose their strength. After they capture the fish for later consumption, a large crab appears. Despite its size, the twins' playful spirit prevails, and they quickly dispatch the crustacean by slamming its neck into a rock. With the threat neutralized, Takumi announces they'll have seafood for lunch. After the meal, the group resumes their journey. Suddenly, Takumi feels like he has passed through a barrier, and Milna points out the village ahead. Enchanted by its beauty, Takumi learns that the structures are made of prismarine, a crystal formed when the ocean crystallizes, which also contains a special power. Milna explains that the village is called the Blue Palace due to the sea's color. Before giving them a tour of the interior, Milna wants to show them the castle first. There, the humans see a huge ship stuck at the entrance of a cave where the mermaids grow corals. Despite their efforts, the ship remains lodged, blocking access to the cave. The high priestess of the Blue Palace heard from the water god's servant that Lord Takumi could solve the problem. Pondering the situation, Takumi guesses he might be able to put the ship in his inventory despite its size. In an instant, the ship becomes a menu item, impressing everyone around. The ship's description reveals its origin and hints at a cure for a disease affecting the entire mermaid species. Milna then wishes to take Takumi to the High Priestess. After marveling at the palace's interior, Takumi arrives at the priestess's door, even more amazed by her appearance. The humans arrive at the priestess's door, even more amazed by her appearance. Takumi thinks she resembles Otoheim from fairy tales, and the children openly express how beautiful they find her. The guardian thanks her for the invitation, but the priestess emphasizes that she owes a lot to them because the water god's servant mentioned a great debt to them. Milna adds that Takumi resolved the ship issue, further boosting the White Wing's prestige. The priestess even declares they are in the presence of the heroes of the Ocean Palace. Despite the recognition, Takumi values his anonymity and doesn't want to draw much attention. The priestess seems to understand this, assuring him that only those present know what he and the children did. She highlights Takumi's kindness, a reaction he's not comfortable with. Galdo, leader of the Mermaid and Merman Society, tells her she's making the guest uneasy, but she insists on expressing the significance of his deeds. Galdo shares an example of someone bluntly telling the priestess she was immature, which she didn't appreciate. The young cleric understands that not everything should be said. Realizing she went too far, she introduces Galdo as the Sea People's leader, though Takumi had heard she was in charge. She explains that she holds an honorary title due to her greater affinity with the gods, a rare trait appearing only once per generation. She confesses she doesn't particularly enjoy holding this title. Nonetheless, the High Priestess announces a gift for the heroes. Takumi, showing humility, tries to decline, but they insist on rewarding the group. Takumi recalls his failed attempt at water magic and asks for help developing this skill. Galdo offers to assist, and though the priestess suggests something beyond the reward, Takumi feels the help is enough. Milna suggests an idea, leading the priestess to offer items not useful to her people. She takes the White Wings to a heap of braca algae, used for fever compresses and burn treatment, rock shells for cleaning powder, and giant shark bones for weapons. The children also grab some pearls of various colors among the items. The High Priestess courageously admits, this is the mermaid's lair. Though the mermaids are embarrassed, the humans are amazed by the spectacular items considered insignificant by this society, like the pearls, which aren't shiny enough to be valuable. The priestess points out that while these items aren't significant to them, the water god's servant mentioned they are very valuable to humans. Since the children like them, Takumi accepts the gifts and receives an invitation to stay at the Blue Palace. They are treated to a grand banquet with seafood and music, allowing them to learn more about the underwater civilization's culture and customs. Takumi feels so good that he wonders if he's being treated like the legendary Urashima Taro, even imagining he might turn into an old man when he returns to the surface. When the children praise the food, he imagines himself older and the children already adults, and he hugs them, wishing they would stay young forever. They then tour the palace, admiring the ocean's beauty through glass windows, seeing fish and plants unfamiliar to the surface. Seeing some swimming animals, Alan and Elena think they should kick them, but their tutor advises them to stay calm and observe with curiosity, as if in an aquarium. Later, after achieving more than they imagined possible, the White Wings trio is taken back to the surface by Galdo to start their water element magic training. He explains that water magic involves both manipulation and creation, unlike earth magic, which only requires manipulation of nearby materials. Takumi grasps the concept, though Alan and Elena seem lost. Galdo asks Takumi to demonstrate his ability, and the boy raises a massive water pillar, startling the children. Galdo then takes the opportunity to teach them about magical flow. He asks for their hands and releases an energy mass near their bodies, explaining its mana, the source of all magical power. He asks if they can feel it, and with Takumi's encouragement, the children begin to feel a warmth inside them. As Takumi delved deeper into his abilities, he realized that the mysterious energy he had been harnessing was known as mana. This revelation made him aware that mana was a distinct force within his body, something that could be honed and controlled. When Galden, the wise instructor, saw that the twins, Alan and Elena, could also feel the mana, he was thrilled. He then guided them to gather water and use their mana to manipulate it in their hands. Demonstrating the process himself, Galden emphasized the difficulty of mastering this art, revealing that it could take him half a day just to form a simple sphere of water. The fact that the children were already able to sense their mana was a promising sign, and Takumi couldn't help but acknowledge their remarkable talent. Next, it was Takumi's turn to showcase his water sphere, a technique that had previously caused him much embarrassment. Following Galden's instructions, he summoned a water sphere that was far more powerful than any he had conjured before. When the sphere struck a rock and shattered it, Alan and Elena were ecstatic, eager to try it themselves. Galden watched with approval as the two gathered their mana and formed water balls that struck another rock with the force of cannonballs. Behind them, both Galden and the priestess were astonished by the incredible talent these young prodigies displayed. Later, when the trio was alone on the surface, Takumi, Alan, and Elena decided to continue practicing to develop their skills further. The twins, showing their natural ability, impressed Takumi as he praised them for being true prodigies. He even imagined how useful it would be to conjure a wall of water during their training. Their session, however, was interrupted when they sensed an unfamiliar presence around them. Though nothing was visible to the naked eye, Takumi's detection abilities revealed something emerging from the depths, making further intervention unnecessary. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Sil, the servant of the water goddess, was pressuring Maya to reveal what was happening in the mermaid region. While searching for Takumi, Alan, and Elena, Maya had noticed some issues and was now being interrogated by Sil. Though Sil expressed frustration over the humans' involvement in divine matters, Maya couldn't deny a growing sense of gratitude towards Takumi. Back at the ocean's edge, Takumi and the children faced a new and formidable challenge, a gigantic creature rising from the sea. Analyzing the beast's status, Takumi discovered it was a leviathan, a mighty water dragon. What intrigued him most was that the dragon did not seem hostile towards humans, a fact that puzzled him. In truth, the leviathan had sensed something unusual and, through telepathy, revealed that it had found a servant of the wind god along with two children of the water god. This revelation made Takumi curious about the origins of his adopted children. The leviathan explained that it had once taken care of these children, but being a sea creature, it was unable to continue its role without causing destruction to any city it passed through. Now, with the children near their maritime domain, the dragon saw an opportunity to fulfill its duty as their protector. The Leviathan then asked Takumi to seal a contract with it, so it could be summoned when necessary, though it warned that it might not always agree to appear. To solidify the agreement, Takumi needed to give the beast a name. After a moment of thought, Takumi chose the name Kaiser, officially making the Leviathan a part of the White Wings group as another protector of the water god's children. Kaiser, now a part of the team, commented on how much the children adored Takumi, likening him to a father figure. However, Takumi humbly emphasized that he was more of an older brother to them. In a surprising turn, the dragon invited the children to join him in the sea, promising them a safe and comfortable life in the marine world. After all, a dragon was more suited to ensure their safety than a mere human. Despite the enticing offer, The children were adamant about not leaving Takumi. The Leviathan respected their feelings and merely wanted to confirm that the children truly wanted to stay with their guardian. Acknowledging that he was indeed weaker than the dragon, Takumi nevertheless promised never to let go of Alan and Elena's hands, no matter what. Trusting in Takumi's word, Kaiser gave him a magical scale, which would allow the trio to contact the dragon if they ever needed help. With that, the dragon gave them a thrilling ride across the ocean, through the maritime snow, until they returned to the Blue Palace. Upon their arrival, Takumi asked the children if they truly wanted to stay with him, and they wholeheartedly reassured him that they never wanted to leave their new uncle's side. Asterisk, asterisk, what do you think about the bond between Takumi and the twins? Could it be something more? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Back in the village, the priestess and Milena welcomed them warmly. The kids excitedly tell the two women that they rode Kaiser. Confused by what the kids mean, Takumi quickly lies, saying they rode a fish, as he can't exactly reveal that they rode a Leviathan. The children add that it was really sparkly, and Takumi explains that snow-like water flakes fluttered around them during the journey. The mermaids are amazed, explaining that such a sight is quite rare, and they believe Takumi must have good luck. They suggest he must be tired from his journey and offer him a chance to rest. However, Takumi informs them that he would like to leave the village immediately. Though saddened, the priestess understands that Takumi might have important matters to attend to. She asks him to wait a moment and returns with a lunchbox, which Takumi and the kids gratefully accept before leaving the village. On their way back to the surface, they encounter a menacing crab, but the children easily defeat it while laughing. Watching them, Takumi muses that he should make crab hot pot later. Just as they are about to reach the surface, they notice a peculiar structure. Upon closer inspection, they realize it is a labyrinth. Takumi sees that it is quite deep, and the kids, intrigued, head inside. Takumi follows them, and they reach the labyrinth's entrance. Takumi soon discovers that this is the 53rd labyrinth, known as Ripple, a mid-level labyrinth with 30 floors. He notices teleportation devices at every 10th floor and asks the kids what they should do. The kids want to explore, and although Takumi questions whether they are tired from all the diving, they insist they are not. Takumi agrees to explore the labyrinth with them, but sets a limit of 10 floors for now, planning to head to the city to rest before continuing another time. The kids are fine with this plan, and Takumi suggests they eat the lunchbox before starting. They open it to find it filled with seafood, which they enjoy before beginning their exploration. Starting from the first floor, Takumi asks the kids for directions, and as usual, they all point in the same direction. He follows them, and they soon encounter some poison frogs. Takumi instructs the kids to use magic to fight, as the frogs are poisonous, and he kills one using an air shot. The kids then attack two frogs with water balls, but the frogs dodge, disappointing the kids. Takumi encourages them to try again, and this time they manage to defeat the frogs. Later, they find themselves on the second floor, where Takumi notices a suspicious wall. Upon investigation, he discovers a secret door leading to a hidden room filled with treasure chests. In the first chest, they find red prawns. The kids wonder if they can eat them, and Takumi assures them they can, but only after cooking. He stores the prawns, intending to cook them later, and they find dried bonito in another chest. The kids are confused, so Takumi explains that it's dried fish, which is delicious when used as a cooking ingredient. Happy with the find, they continue opening the chests, discovering various types of seafood inside each one. They then proceed to the 6th floor, where Takumi decides to end the day's exploration as it's getting late. After a rest, he ponders what to cook for dinner. Spotting the sand crab, he decides to use the bonito to make crab hot pot. The kids are excited, and once Takumi finishes cooking, they all enjoy the meal, finding it delicious. He also boils some prawns with salt, which they savor as well. After eating, they go to sleep, ready to continue exploring the labyrinth the next morning. The next day, as they explore the 6th floor, they encounter an impact shell. The kids rush towards it, but Takumi stops them, warning that the monster emits a shockwave when attacked. He instructs them to attack from a distance, and the kids successfully defeat it using magic. Impressed by their power, Takumi remembers that he hasn't checked their stats in a while. Using his appraisal skill, he discovers that they are children of the god of water. He wonders if this revelation is due to knowing their identity or if his appraisal skill has leveled up. Unsure of the reason, he notes that the kids are now at level 25, not far behind his level of 27. Realizing he might look pathetic if they surpass him, he resolves to improve his own level. Takumi then notices that the impact shell dropped a party popper. Surprised, he explains to the kids that it can make a loud sound when the string is pulled. He helps them try it out, but the loud noise scares them. After consoling the kids, they encounter another impact shell. This time, the kids take out their frustration on it, defeating it instantly, but they are traumatized by the party popper. Takumi still picks it up, just in case it might be useful later. After some more exploration, they reach the 10th floor. Takumi explains that mid-level dungeons typically have sub-bosses every 10 levels, and they cautiously enter the room. Inside, they find an island in the middle of the room, connected by a bridge. As they cross the bridge, they are suddenly attacked by some arrowfish. Takumi uses his wind cutter to battle the arrowfish, while the kids defeat them with water balls. They continue fighting for a while and easily take down nearly 100 arrowfish. Afterward, the stairs to the next floor appear, signaling that they have cleared this level. Before moving on, the kids excitedly show Takumi the loot they collected from the arrowfish. He sees that they obtained fairy stones, arrowfish fillets, arrows, and spears, which he promptly stores in his inventory. The kids then spot something in the water. Using his detect skill, Takumi checks for monsters, but finds the area safe, so they dive in. Underwater, they discover a treasure chest containing a mermaid scale bracelet. Takumi considers this a rare find, given its location deep within the labyrinth. He decides to keep it, thinking it might be useful for Jewel and the others. With nothing else to find, they return to the surface. They take the stairs to the next floor, where they find a teleportation device. Takumi decides it's time to end their exploration for the day and suggests heading to the city of Bailey. The scene then shifts to them arriving in Bailey. Takumi remembers that he has an introduction letter for the provincial lord from Reisner, so he plans to visit the lord's manor after exploring the city a bit. As they wander through the city, they come across a scallop shop and decide to try some. Takumi asks the shopkeeper if the scallops are seasoned with salt. After confirming that they are, Takumi requests to buy them, but insists on seasoning them himself. The shopkeeper agrees, and Takumi seasons the scallops with butter and soy sauce. The aroma from the seasoning makes the shopkeeper's mouth water, and after Takumi finishes, he serves the scallops to the kids, who absolutely love them. Takumi tries some himself and is also satisfied. The shopkeeper, impressed by the black liquid Takumi used, asks what it is. Takumi explains that it's soy sauce, made from the sap of the kokichi tree. He offers some scallops to the shopkeeper, who agrees that they taste great. The enticing aroma draws a crowd, and soon townspeople surround the shop, eager to try the scallops. Though the kids are reluctant to share, Takumi reassures them they won't have to. The shopkeeper then asks Takumi if he would sell the soy sauce and butter to him. Takumi agrees, feeling somewhat responsible for the situation. The shopkeeper quickly sells all the scallops, delighted at how fast they sold out. He mentions that it's been a long time since he sold out so early and attributes the rush to the unique seasoning. He asks for permission to continue selling scallops with the same seasoning, and Takumi agrees, provided the shopkeeper procures the soy sauce himself. Next, Takumi and the kids visit the blacksmith. Takumi asks if the blacksmith can polish the Leviathan scale he obtained. The blacksmith is surprised, identifying it as a Leviathan scale, and wonders how Takumi acquired it. Takumi explains that it was a gift, and the blacksmith decides not to pry further. Takumi asks if it can be made into a pendant, and Ruddy, the apprentice, designs one for him. Ruddy advises using mithril as a frame for the pendant, as silver and copper wouldn't do it justice. Takumi agrees, suggesting that the chain be made of something like leather. Ruddy suggests using mithril spider's thread, but the blacksmith dismisses the idea as unattainable. Takumi then surprises them by producing some mithril spider thread, a gift from Sil. Takumi orders 3 pendants, and the kids request different designs. Elena wants something cute, while Alan asks for something cool. Takumi reflects on how their personalities sometimes differ in situations like this. Rudy begins work on the pendants, and Takumi inquires if the blacksmith can craft equipment if provided with materials. Takumi shows them the evil viper's skin, stunning the blacksmith. When Takumi reveals he's a Renka adventurer, the blacksmith is surprised, noting that he doesn't look the part. Takumi gets that a lot. He requests a pair of gloves, a breastplate, and a bracer. The blacksmith is surprised by the request for a leather bracer, but Takumi explains it's for his hawk, whose talons can stab when it lands on his arm. Alan, hearing this, wants a bracer too, so that Bolt can land on his arm. So Takumi orders 2, as Elena doesn't want one. They leave the store and head to the church. Inside, Takumi talks to Sil, informing him that they've arrived safely in Bailey and that he's learned about Alan and Elena's origins. Sil apologizes for not telling him sooner, but Takumi reassures him there's no need and asks where their father is and what he's doing now.
Upon arriving at the temple, the adventurer informs the wind god that the twins are the children of the water god. Sil apologizes for not revealing this earlier, but Takumi isn't interested in discussing that. Instead, he wants to know where the children's father is. Gazing at the statue of the water god, Takumi guesses the father looks like that. Sil's silence only deepens the mystery. The idea that their father could show up and take them away makes Takumi uneasy, adding tension to the moment. But the wind god surprises everyone by happily announcing that Takumi is now officially his vassal, having received a special blessing. Takumi, a bit annoyed, asks if this means more work for him. The wind god clarifies that it's not really work, but it might as well be. Takumi is to become a symbol. For example, Silpharil's symbol is the wind, and Takumi's will be training and education. Confused, Takumi asks why, but then he quickly remembers his time mentoring the 2 blue-haired kids. He expected something more wind-related since he serves the wind god. Sil, irritated, explains that training and education fall under the domain of Marianella, the goddess of wind. He's upset because Takumi received a blessing from her instead of him, which is why Takumi lacks wind-related abilities. Frustrated, Sil grumbles about being the one who found Takumi in the first place, only for Takumi to remind him that the god accidentally killed him. Takumi must continue looking after the kids, and as a bonus, he'll receive some items from the fire god Salamanthile as a thank you for improving Ateldia's cuisine. For example, the sweetbreads that became famous in Shireen are now spreading to other countries, along with the soy sauce dish in Bailey. Sil emphasizes that Ateldia's cuisine hadn't changed in centuries, and very few new dishes were introduced. As a cooking enthusiast, the fire god was so pleased that he's giving Takumi another beast and fire magic abilities. Takumi is thrilled, noting that few monsters are vulnerable to wind or water, which annoys Sil. The meeting ends, and Takumi calls the children to find a place to stay. As they leave the temple, Sil feels guilty for not telling the truth about the children's father. The truth is, while the water god was fooling around with Sil, someone else impregnated a woman from Ateldia, resulting in the twins. Seeing his friend in tears, the fire god asks what's wrong. Sil doesn't answer, worried about how long Salamanthile has been listening. The fire god reveals that he heard everything from the start. Putting that aside, he asks if Sil delivered the items to Takumi. Sil corrects him on the name and confirms the delivery. As for the fire spells, Takumi seemed excited to receive them, so Salamanthile shouldn't forget to hand them over. Enthusiastically, the fire god mentions he's got his best beasts ready for Takumi, making Sil curious about his friend's plan. Salamanthile winks and says Sil will find out soon, but Sil worries because when this firecracker gets too excited, he usually causes trouble. Meanwhile, Takumi and the water god's kids are having fun with the animals on the beach. Takumi uses his water magic to lift the children, letting them slide down like a water slide. The kids, enjoying themselves, keep coming back for more. After 48 times, Takumi is exhausted, but he pushes himself to continue training his abilities. Suddenly, a massive flame lion appears. Takumi quickly assesses the beast and discovers it's a Scarlet King Leo, a beast sent by Salamanthile. Takumi didn't expect such a large creature, but the kids see it as a giant amusement park. Takumi asks the lion if it was sent by the fire god, and it responds with a roar as loud as an industrial fan. Bolt explains that the lion hasn't developed telepathy yet. The children want to name the new pet, and Takumi suggests Vector. The lion affectionately nuzzles its head against Takumi, so he takes that as approval of the name. Although Takumi is happy to have another companion, he knows the lion needs to shrink in size to become a proper pet. He asks Vector to scale down, and the lion complies immediately. The kids introduce themselves up close, and Takumi does the same, announcing that Vector is now a part of the family. Soon enough, the lion joins in the fun. But before that, Alan and Elena toss a ball for Jewel, the wolf, to fetch. Jewel brings it back. Now it's Vector's turn, but instead of fetching the ball, he returns with a woman in his mouth, much to Takumi's horror. Panicking, Takumi rushes over to check if she's alive. Luckily, she's just unconscious. Checking her stats, he discovers she's Vivian, a level 54 vampire demon of the spy class. Takumi knows that in Ateldia, demons are treated like other races, such as elves and dwarves. So, she's probably not an enemy of humans. Still, Takumi scolds Vector, explaining that if it weren't for the sand, the lion could have seriously hurt her. The lion looks like it's about to cry, so Takumi quickly reassures Vector that he's not angry, just that they need to be more careful from now on. Alan and Elena poke the girl, and she turns over, mumbling that she's hungry without fully waking up. The little ones take this as their cue to raise their hands and announce they're hungry too, prompting their tutor to start preparing lunch. Later, as soon as Takumi announces that the food is ready, Vivian springs up as if she hadn't just been passed out and watches from a distance. As everyone enjoys the meal, the vampire's stomach growls even louder from hunger, until Takumi hands her a plate of rice balls. Without asking any questions, she devours the food like she's never eaten before. Alan and Elena, worried she might steal their food, quickly start eating too. Takumi then asks if the girl fainted from hunger, but she doesn't respond until every grain of rice on her plate is gone. After finishing, she thanks him for the meal and introduces herself as Vivienne, or Vivi for short. Takumi and the kids start to introduce themselves, but Vivi interrupts, curious about the delicious food she just ate. Takumi explains that they were rice balls made with white wheat and water. Vivi asks if it's the same white wheat used to feed animals. Embarrassed, Takumi explains that in his homeland, people eat this type of food too. He then asks if she's offended by this, but she's not. She found the food delicious. Vivi praises Takumi, telling the kids that their older brother, or maybe their father, is an excellent cook. Alan and Elena clarify that Takumi is their uncle, but Vivi isn't convinced, noting that Takumi didn't react when she called him their father. She even jokes that maybe Takumi had an affair with his brother's wife, which prompts Takumi to quickly change the subject. Vivi apologizes, explaining that her spy instincts make her naturally curious about people's secrets. Takumi then asks why she was passed out in the sand. Vivi recalls that she was heading to the city of Albert and forgot to buy food. She hunted and gathered fruit along the way, but couldn't find enough to sustain herself and nearly starved. Takumi suggests she could have turned back when she realized there was no food, but she was determined to complete her mission investigating a nobleman's fiancé who was hiding a commoner in his mansion. The children, though amazed, don't fully understand what that means, so Vivi explains that the fiancé didn't seem to be hiding the woman on purpose, so there was no need for her to disguise herself as a maid. With her mission incomplete, Vivi says she must continue her work, thanks them for the food, and prepares to leave. As a token of thanks, she gives Takumi a white rose, which is actually a vampire aphrodisiac that only works on men, and a red one for women. Realizing what these gifts mean, Takumi blushes, and Vivi finds it amusing that he figured it out. She assures him the aphrodisiacs are effective, as she personally created and tested them. The kids ask if they can try the drinks, but Takumi quickly says no. While the eccentric vampire hurries off, Takumi wants to return the aphrodisiacs but ends up storing them in his inventory. After Vivi's departure, the children start thinking about what she said about their father. They don't quite understand, so they ask Takumi. He tries to explain, starting with the fact that they know what an uncle is. He explains that a family has a mom and a dad who are like uncles, but both Alan and Elena were born from them. The kids don't seem to grasp much, which Takumi expected. They ask if the uncle was also born from the mom and dad, to which he says yes, and that being born is a very good thing. The little ones repeat this, then run off to play, leaving Takumi to reflect that one day they will understand what a family truly means. The next day, to celebrate their arrival in the city, they visit the Bailey Guild and take on some material gathering quests they had already completed to claim the rewards. The receptionist asks for their guild card and gasps when she sees that Takumi is ranked A. This draws the attention of almost everyone around. But what really grabs the whole block's attention is when she discovers that this seemingly harmless trio discovered a new labyrinth called Sazanami. Takumi explains that they stumbled upon it by accident while playing in the ocean, but the receptionist can't stop shouting about how important this is. The guildmaster arrives to scold the employee, demanding she apologize to the adventurers for causing a commotion and revealing personal information. He then asks Takumi to share what he knows about the new labyrinth. Takumi points out the dungeon's location on the map, explaining that Sazanami is the 53rd labyrinth, located east of the coast in a large underwater reef. The guildmaster asks how they managed to breathe underwater, but since Takumi can't explain the mermaid bracelets, he makes up a story about his team having the lung capacity of a whale. The guildmaster believes the tale and asks them to meet with the region's lord tomorrow. When the day comes, the White Wings head to the mansion of Bailey's ruler, Cedric Risner. Hearing the Risner surname, Takumi recalls that Isaac Risner knew this lord, but didn't realize Bailey's lord was his younger brother. Alan and Elena point to Cedric and think he looks like the knight who let them kick that guy. They're talking about Vault, but Cedric misunderstands, thinking his brother has developed a taste for being kicked by little kids. So Takumi has to take some time to explain everything properly. The scene changes to Takumi, the kids, and Cedric sitting in a room. The twins see two kids at the door when the butler goes to get them some tea. Later, someone from the guild arrives. With him, Takumi tells Cedric how he found the Ripple Labyrinth. The guild worker shares the information they've gathered, and Cedric is very happy that a labyrinth was found in his area. Cedric thanks Takumi. Takumi explains that in their world, labyrinths bring in money. When people hear about a labyrinth, many adventurers come to explore it. This makes inns and restaurants busy and successful. Items found in the labyrinth are sold to the guild, and then the guild sells them to merchants, helping everyone make more money. Because of this, the economy gets better, and the area becomes richer. Takumi is happy he can thank the Reiser family for taking care of them. The guild worker then says this is the 5th labyrinth found in the kingdom of Gadia. He shows Takumi a list of all the labyrinths in the kingdom. Takumi notices that half of the labyrinths are still hidden and not found yet. He also sees that the labyrinths near cities haven't been discovered. Takumi thinks he needs to be careful when exploring labyrinths so nothing bad happens again. The guild worker offers Takumi a map. As soon as Takumi touches the map, he hears a notification sound. Takumi wonders if his map is being updated and decides to check it later. He thinks Sile works very fast and realizes that Sile is always watching him. Cedric asks Takumi if something is wrong. Takumi says it's nothing and asks how far the scout team went into the labyrinth. Cedric explains that they only went through the first floor and are having some trouble with the entrance. Takumi asks if anyone got hurt, but Cedric says everyone is fine. He adds that the scouts are strong and they chose the best swimmers. Cedric also says they gave the scouts magic items. Takumi gets curious and asks if it helps them breathe. Cedric explains that the items have wind stones that create air steadily. Takumi is glad they have something like that. Cedric then says they should talk about the Medal of Honor. Cedric tells Takumi that he is going to receive a medal from the kingdom. Takumi says he doesn't need one and asks if his name will be announced to everyone. Cedric says they report it to the kingdom. but it's not always made public. Cedric wonders if Takumi doesn't like being famous. Takumi says he doesn't like standing out, even though people will praise him if he's called the Discoverer. Takumi doesn't want to be famous, and Cedric agrees to tell the king. Cedric hopes Takumi won't say no to the medal. Takumi agrees to accept it, even though he's unsure. The guild worker tries to leave, but Cedric stops him. Cedric heard about something that happened in the guild yesterday. The worker apologizes for sharing secret information, and Takumi is surprised that Cedric knew about it. Takumi tells the worker it's okay, because the guild master and receptionist already apologized. He thinks Cedric has great spies. Cedric tells the worker to make sure it doesn't happen again, and the worker leaves after saying sorry again. Cedric then tells Takumi that he heard Takumi arrived in the city, but didn't expect the guild to bother him. Takumi wonders how Cedric knew he came. Cedric says he got a letter from Isaac and told the guard to let him know when Takumi arrived. Cedric says he was worried because Takumi took some time to meet him. Takumi apologizes for being late. Cedric says it's okay and thinks Takumi was exploring the city. Takumi agrees, and the kids say they had fun at the sea. Cedric hopes they enjoy their time there. The butler tells them that lunch is ready. Takumi tries to leave, but Cedric invites him to have lunch with them. Takumi can't say no. Cedric introduces him to his sons, Theodore and Lottie's, and his wife, Olivia. Olivia says they have a daughter, but she's too young to join them. Takumi then introduces Alan and Elena. The twins greet the kids, and Takumi sees that they are nervous. He thinks it's normal since they haven't met kids their age before. He tells Theodore and Lottie's that the twins are shy. Takumi hopes everyone will get along, and the boys agree. After that, Takumi eats lunch. He likes the food but notices it only has salt for seasoning. After lunch, Cedric says Isaac wrote that Takumi introduced new types of bread in Shirin. Takumi is surprised Isaac wrote that. Cedric explains that this is how he learned about cream bread and red bean bread. Isaac bragged about how tasty they are. Cedric asks Takumi if he can share the recipes. Takumi agrees because the twins also like the breads, and it would be great to sell them at Bailey. Theodore and Lottie's are excited to try the breads. Takumi wants to give them some, but he doesn't have enough for everyone. The twins then ask for jelly. The boys don't know what jelly is. The twins say it's jiggly and smooth, which confuses everyone. Takumi explains that jelly is a dessert. Cedric asks if he can let them eat it too. Takumi isn't sure because the ingredients might not taste good to nobles. This makes them even more curious. Cedric says they will try to guess the ingredients after eating it. Takumi hopes that no one will be upset after trying the jelly, and he serves it to everyone. They taste it and find it refreshing and delicious, but they can't guess what it's made of. The boys think it might be made from fruit or milk, but Olivia says those ingredients aren't unusual. Cedric eventually gives up and asks Takumi what the jelly is made from. The kids reveal that it's made from slime, shocking everyone. Takumi explains that the twins hunted many slimes in the labyrinth at Shirin and got slime jelly as a drop item. After learning it was safe for humans, he decided to experiment and cooked it into jelly. He heated the slime jelly with fruit juice, poured it into glasses, and used basic magic to cool it down. Both he and the twins loved it. Cedric and his family are amazed that a useless slime monster could be turned into a dessert. Cedric wonders if Isaac, his brother, has tried it yet. Takumi says he hasn't, and Cedric is thrilled to have something new to brag about. He asks if they can buy the recipe, and Takumi agrees. Cedric then thinks they should sell the jelly in shops and tells his butler to get some slime jelly immediately. The butler says it might take a while, since slime jelly is so common that even low-rank adventurers don't bother picking it up. Cedric suggests they should start breeding slimes, and Takumi is shocked to hear him talk about opening a slime farm. Cedric then thanks Takumi for everything and invites him to spend the night at his place. Takumi mentions that he has already booked an inn, but Cedric insists on canceling it, and Takumi can't refuse. Later, Olivia asks the twins to play with her kids, and after getting Takumi's permission, they agree. The next morning, they find Cedric reading a letter. He explains that it's a reply from Isaac, which he received through a teleportation device at the guild. Unlike the labyrinth devices, it can't send people, but it can send objects over long distances. Takumi finds this practical. Cedric says Isaac sent the letter as urgent, but there's no problem. He just teased Isaac about eating the jelly and kept the ingredients a secret. Takumi wonders if the brothers dislike each other, but Cedric explains that Isaac is just as competitive as ever. Although Isaac has become better at hiding his feelings since becoming a knight, this letter feels nostalgic to Cedric, reminding Takumi that the brothers have a playful relationship. Meanwhile, Isaac, reading Cedric's letter, looks gloomy. Vault, another character, notices this and asks what's wrong. Isaac says Takumi and the others have arrived in Bailey which seems quick, but they accept it since it's Takumi. Isaac also mentions that a new labyrinth has been found in Bailey, surprising Vault. He adds that Takumi discovered it, and Vault is shocked, but acknowledges that this is just the kind of thing Takumi would do. Isaac then worries that if Takumi's discovery becomes public, he might be called to the royal capital. Vault agrees that rumors will spread, and if people upset Takumi, he might even leave the country. They realize that losing Takumi would be a significant loss, so they decide to take steps to prevent it. Isaac also mentions being curious about the jelly that Takumi gave Cedric. Vault is amazed by how much Takumi has accomplished in such a short time. The scene then shifts to Takumi, the twins, Cedric, his kids, and his butler at a morning market. Cedric, disguised as a commoner, says they're there to try a unique food sold at a seaside stall. His boys spot the stall, and Cedric, holding their hands, leads them to it. The twins want to do the same, so Takumi holds their hands too. It turns out the stall is selling grilled scallops, and when the stall owner sees Takumi, he offers to let him skip the line since Takumi taught him how to make them. Everyone enjoys the scallops, and Cedric is impressed that this is also Takumi's doing. Cedric asks about the soy sauce used, and Takumi explains that it's made from the sap of a tree that grows in the labyrinth. Cedric decides to visit a shop that sells labyrinth items next. After they finish eating, they visit the Fiji Trading Company. Takumi explains that this company gathers items found in labyrinths. While Cedric talks with the chief, Takumi and the twins explore. The twins spot some red beans, and Takumi explains that these are used to make the paste for red bean buns. The boys are excited to try it another time. Cedric returns with some goods, and Takumi notices that the mark on Cedric's shopping bag looks familiar. He remembers seeing the same mark on a sunken ship named Diet Light. Soon after, Cedric returned, proudly showing off a package that Takumi immediately recognized as having the same markings as the shipwreck he had salvaged from the mermaid village. Seizing the opportunity, Takumi asked if Cedric's lord was familiar with the ship Dietland. Cedric recalled reading about it in his diary, noting it had once been mentioned in a report as a merchant vessel that had sunk some time ago. While there were no casualties, the ship's loss was still a significant blow. Takumi then mentioned that he had managed to recover the ship, leaving both Cedric and the branch owner dumbfounded, struggling to comprehend how someone could accomplish such a feat. The ship's owner remarked that the vessel had sunk far from the coast, prompting Takumi to improvise by claiming he had been deep underwater at the time. Cedric remembered the ship being massive, so Takumi explained that he stored it in his inventory with plans to return it, as some of the cargo was still aboard. Cedric then asked if Takumi intended to give the ship back without asking for a reward, to which Takumi, surprised, responded that this was simply the way things were done. Later, Cedric and the branch owner explained that in this world, when someone finds something, they become its owner. This rule even applied to items recovered from thieves' ownership transferred to whoever defeated the bandits. If the original owner wanted their belongings back, they would have to negotiate a reward. The businessman further elaborated that the large fairy stone which powered the ship was highly valuable, and the ship sank because one side of it had been damaged. If the fairy stone was still intact, recovering it would be a tremendous help. With this in mind, Takumi offered to show the ship's owner the cargo to see if the fairy stone could still be salvaged. The children then asked where their uncle was headed, and Takumi explained that he was going to return the ship they had found stranded at the bottom of the sea. Curious, they questioned why he would give it back, leading Takumi to explain the situation by asking them a simple question: if someone walking in front of them dropped something, what would they do? Both kids answered that they would pick it up and return it to the person. Takumi smiled and told them that was exactly what he was doing. Understanding this, the twins became excited about the idea of returning the ship to its rightful owner. Takumi could only hope that when the time came, they would also return something that didn't belong to them. Soon after, they all headed to the port, where Takumi activated his inventory and placed the ship back into the water. The businessman, barely able to believe his eyes, confirmed that it was indeed his boat. After returning the vessel and forging a friendship with the Fiji Trading Company, Takumi explored some of their products, including coffer beans, which Sil had once mentioned weren't for eating, but for brewing a drink similar to coffee. As a coffee lover from his original world, Takumi was thrilled. He also discovered turmeric, cardamom, coriander, and cloves, lighting up with the idea of making the perfect curry. Though the children had no idea what curry was, they were excited to try it along with their tutor. Without wasting time, the three set up a makeshift kitchen outdoors, borrowing tools from Cedric so they wouldn't disturb anyone. Takumi instructed the kids to chop belugas, which resembled onions, as well as marrow potatoes and carrots into small pieces. Since pork was unavailable, they used orc meat. After seasoning the ingredients with salt, Takumi added them to a broth, waiting for the vegetables to soften. Meanwhile, he heated oil and flour in a pan, mixing in the spices. Once the aroma was just right, Takumi poured some of the vegetable broth into the mixture before adding everything back into the pot. Alan and Elena took turns stirring while Takumi added his secret ingredient. With no ketchup or Worcestershire sauce available, he opted for an apple and honey combination, thinking the sweetness would make the curry more appealing to the kids. With that done, they would normally have to wait for it to cook. But to cook remembered a spell he recently learned, which sped up time for inanimate objects. Using this spell, he had the curry ready in no time. The children wasted no time digging in, loving the dish instantly. The enticing smell soon attracted some of the mansion staff, curious about what Takumi had made. He explained to Cedric that the dish was called curry, a meal from earth made with medicinal herbs. Cedric was astonished that medicinal herbs could smell so delicious. Even the Lord himself tried the curry with his children and fell in love with it. Takumi noted that he made the dish to go with the bread available at the mansion, but promised that once they found white wheat, he would make curry with rice. Cedric's children couldn't stop praising Takumi's cooking, marveling at all the unique dishes he had introduced. Takumi took a large bite, not even pausing to chew, which broke the ice and made the kids feel more comfortable. However, Cedric maintained a strangely serious expression at the table. When Takumi asked what was wrong, Cedric stood up abruptly, slamming the table as he shouted about how incredible the curry was, going on to rave about the wonder and refinement of this otherworldly dish. Faced with such an extreme reaction, Takumi began to wonder if one of the spices he used might have had a stimulating effect he wasn't aware of. Suddenly, one of the cooks burst into the dining room, having tried the curry, and also declared his love for the dish, exclaiming that he had never tasted anything like it in all his years of cooking. Overcome with excitement, the seasoned chef asked to become Takumi's apprentice. Startled by the request, Takumi politely declined, but the chef insisted, asking if his skills weren't good enough to learn from the master. Cedric intervened, urging his employee to calm down and reminding him that Takumi was an adventurer, not a professional chef, and thus wouldn't be taking on any apprentices. Despite this, Cedric admitted that after all the unique dishes Takumi had introduced to the people of Bailey, he himself wouldn't mind if the boy gave up adventuring to become a full-time chef. Takumi quickly clarifies that for the time being, he prefers to continue with his current line of work. After the meal, Cedric's children asked him to share a story about his adventures. He obliged by recounting a tale from when he defeated monsters in the Shireen forest. It was during a mission where the local military had gathered a group of knights and adventurers to face the creatures. Hearing about how he vanquished a giant serpent, Theodore and Lattice are thrilled, but they express concern that bringing Alan and Alina on such adventures would be too dangerous. Takumi assures them that the twins are much stronger than they appear and can handle monsters that are considered dangerous. This revelation excites Theodore and Lattice even more, and they heap praise on the twins, who, embarrassed, hide their faces in Takumi's arms. Later, the group visits the Rissner family's favorite bakery, where Takumi, at Cedric's request, teaches the bakers how to make Anko cream. He also has a few more recipes written down, so Theodore asks Alan to help prepare coffee cream, while Lattice invites Elena to bake cream-filled bread. As they prepare the items, Elena tries to fill the bread with cream, but it spills out. Lattice quickly resolves the situation by scooping up the overflowing cream with a spoon. During the fun, Cedric's children end up getting powdered sugar on their faces, making the twins burst into laughter. The boys join in, laughing at themselves. Takumi feels immense joy watching his adopted children bond with others their age, something he never imagined at the beginning of their journey. After the kitchen adventure, they finish making coffee cream bread, curry bread, and tuna onion bread. It's time to taste the creations, and the children eagerly dig in. When the head chef of the bakery takes his turn to try the bread, he reacts just like Cedric's cook, pleading with Takumi to let him become his apprentice. A few days later, the White Wings group embarks on a trip outside the city to visit a nearby mountain. Takumi lets the animals roam free and invites everyone to hike a mountain about half a day's walk away. Joel and Feet take charge of carrying the twins, but Vector insists on joining as a mount. Joel, feeling possessive, reminds the wolf that this task is only for him and Feet, leading to a brief scuffle between the lion and the wolf. To settle the dispute, Takumi orders Vector to sit this one out, worried that the lion might lose control and accidentally toss the kids off. With that issue resolved, they set off on their journey. Along the way, they encounter a narrow path. Takumi asks Joel and Feet to shrink down, while Vector, already at his feet, stays in place, and Takumi just hopes the lion doesn't cause chaos. As expected, the clumsy beast crashes through the forest, knocking down everything in his path. A little later, Takumi asks the children what they would like to do, and they express a desire to search for medicinal herbs. This request surprises Takumi, as it's typically related to missions, so he double-checks if that's truly what they want. The twins insist, so Takumi agrees to search for herbs that could be useful in cooking. However, Takumi senses something unusual nearby and activates his detection ability. A group of bandits appears.